Good afternoon. Welcome to another exciting edition of Reading with Mr. Eble, Reading Grenade. So the first chapter is called Stand Off. Here we go. The bomb didn't explode. Not yet. But Masako was done. Her courage was exhausted. Her legs gave out and she started to slide to the ground, sobbing. But Kimiko was there on the other side to take her hand and pull her the rest of the way past the bomb, out into the rain. Hideki sighed with relief, but he still had a job to do. He straightened and addressed the children. There, see? They both got past. We can do it too, Hideki told them. It's like a game. Who can get through without touching any of the metal? The children were wise to him, though. If Masako's fear hadn't already infected them, they had all seen enough bombs in the last 2 months, enough death, to understand the danger. They knew this wasn't a game. But if Hideki had learned anything from playing with his younger brother Isamu, it was that little kids were often brave where teenagers and adults were scared. Because little kids thought they were invincible. The number of times Isamu had jumped down from a branch that was too high, or put his hands too close to the kitchen fire, or tried to pet a strange dog. Hideki got choked up thinking about his little brother Isamu, who had been brave enough to leave half his family and board a strange ship for a land he'd never seen before. Isamu, who he would never see again. Hideki shook off his sorrow for his little brother, saving it for another time. If he didn't get these children past the mother of all bombs, they would be all joining Isamu too soon. One by one, Hideki helped the boys and girls slide around the bomb and into Kimiko's waiting hands outside. Hideki's stomach was full of butterflies the whole time, but not because he was worried about the bomb going off and killing him, he realized, because he didn't want any more children, any more innocent Okinawans, to die for a fight that wasn't theirs. Halt! Where are you going? What are you doing? Someone yelled, and Hideki spun. The Japanese soldier was aiming a rifle right at them. Stop, or I'll shoot! The Japanese soldier cried. Hideki's heart caught in his throat. His first instinct was to panic, to run. But there was nowhere to run, and he'd been through too much by now to panic over a nervous IJA private aiming a shaky gun at him. Like Kimiko, Hideki didn't want to die either, but he wasn't afraid of death anymore. Steadying calm came over Hideki. It stilled him from head to toe like the cool breeze off the sea in summer, and all the tension left him. Hideki stepped in front of the last of the children, a little boy, right in between the soldier on one side and the boy in the bomb on the other. Go ahead, Hideki said. The soldier frowned. What? Go ahead and shoot, Hideki told him. But just know that if you miss, or if the bullet goes through me, you'll hit the bomb behind me, and then you'll be dead too. We'll all die. The soldier's rifle dipped as he realized Hideki was right. Hideki watched the private's eyes dart this way and that as he considered his options. What's your name? Hideki asked the remaining little boy. Kazoo, he squeaked. Go on, Kazoo. You'll be all right, Hideki told him. The Japanese soldier took aim with his rifle again. No one is allowed to leave. Come away from there at once, or I'll shoot. The little boy looked to Hideki for direction, and Hideki nodded for him to go on past the bomb. Stop, the soldier said. He raised his rifle again, but Kazoo didn't stop, and the soldier didn't shoot. When Kazoo was safely through, Hideki slid the pack off his shoulders and turned to leave. I said stop, the soldier cried. There was panic in his voice, a panic Hideki no longer felt. Hideki handed his backpack through the narrow gap to Kimiko, then slid sideways to follow it. If the soldier tried to shoot him now, he had a better chance of hitting the bomb than Hideki. No one is permitted to leave, the private yelled. The riptide pulled at Hideki's stomach as the distance between the wall and the bomb got narrower and narrower. He was going to have to put his hands on the thing, wrap his arms around it the way everyone else had. Would his touching the bomb now set it off at last? Would the soldier let his orders override his common sense? Had Kimiko and Masako gotten the children far enough away where they wouldn't be hurt? Distracted by his own thoughts and fears, Hideki lost his balance the way Masako had. He'd meant to let himself against the bomb slowly, gently, but now he fell onto it with a teeth-rattling thud. The ceramic grenade in Hideki's pocket whacked the side of the bomb like a hammer, and he flinched and closed his eyes. Had the grenade cracked? Was it going to explode? Hideki froze for what seemed like an eternity, wondering if he was dead and just didn't know it. At last he took a deep breath and opened his eyes. Gray painted metal and lines of rivets stared back at him. Water streamed down the side of the bomb like the sweat running down Hideki's back. The bomb was still there, and so was he. Hideki glanced sideways to see what the soldier was doing, but he was gone. Hideki, come on, Kimiko called to him. He turned to look the other way, and there she was, right by the bomb. She hadn't run off and left him. Hideki closed his eyes and slithered the rest of the way around the bomb, the grenade in his pocket digging into him as it scraped along. And then it wasn't scraping anymore, and there was more room between the cave wall and Hideki. and Kimiko was taking his hand and pulling him free. Hideki fell into his sister's waiting arms, and she held him while he shook. All the tension of the moment washed back over him. He and Kimiko hadn't hugged like this in a long time. They were both too old for that kind of thing, but now neither of them cared. They were still alive, and they were still together. They held on to each other like they would never let go again. "What's that?" Kimiko said at last, feeling the hard lump in Hideki's shirt pocket. "A grenade," Hideki said. He pulled it out and showed it to her. "That's not a grenade, you idiot," Kimiko said. "It's a piece of pottery." "It is too a grenade," Hideki said. "And it works, I know," was all he said. Kimiko seemed to understand there was more to the story, but she let it go, for now. "You have a grenade?" Masako called. She was watching them from beyond the next hill, where she waited with the children. "Use it on the bomb." "What?" Hideki said. "Why?" "To close the cave off, to blow him up," Masako called. She knelt and put her arms around little boy, the one who had still been in the cave when the Japanese soldiers threatened to shoot them. "It's only fair after what they were going to do to us." Hideki thought about it as he and Kimiko joined the others. At last he shook his head and put the grenade back in his pocket. "You told me to be brave enough to slide past that beast, but you're not brave enough to throw your grenade at it?" Masako challenged him. Hideki frowned. Was he just being a coward again? Maybe, but there was more to it than that. He couldn't explain it to Masako. He wasn't even sure he could explain it to himself. Shouts came from inside the cave. The soldier had gone back for help. Hideki didn't know if any of them would be able to squeeze past the bomb, or would set it off trying, but he didn't want to be around to find out. "Come on," he told the others. "Time to go." "Where?" Kimiko asked. "South?" "No," Hideki told her. "North. Back through the front lines. We're going home." Next chapter. It's called Lies and Dreams. Hideki led Kimiko and Masako and the children on a zigzag path up muddy hills and down blasted valleys, but always north, toward the illumination shells and the gunshots and explosions, toward home. Hideki, Kimiko, and Masako pulled the last of the children up to the top of a steep ridge. They stopped to take a breather, but something about this particular place made Hideki's skin prickle. He motioned for the others to be quiet and stay where they were, and he crept down the other side of the ridge, holding on to tree stumps so as not to slide. And there it was, the Japanese Army machine gun nest. It was pointed north, toward the direction the advancing Americans would come from. Hideki was standing on the hill above the nest, where the Japanese soldiers inside couldn't see him. But they would see Hideki and the others when they passed by, and the soldiers would likely shoot them as spies or for running away. Hideki snuck back to report his findings to Kimiko and Masako. "Why can't we just go around them?" Kimiko asked. "Head west for a while, then turn back north." Hideki shook his head. "There's a nest here, then there are nests up and down this ridge line to the west and east. This is the new defensive line. If we don't find a way past this machine gun, we'll just have to find a way past the next." "What do we do?" Masako asked. "I'll take care of it," Hideki said. "Give me 5 minutes, then take the kids over the ridge and down through the next valley. I'll keep the machine gunners distracted." "How?" Kimiko asked. Hideki shrugged and headed back down the ridge. "I'll think of something." "Use your grenade," Masako hissed. Hideki considered it again, his last grenade, the one the IJA had given him to kill himself with. The fragile ceramic thing had survived the whole awful battle. All he had to do was chuck the thing through the hole cut in the hillside, and the machine gun nest would be destroyed. So would the soldiers who operated it. Then Kimiko and Masako and the children could slip safely by. Hideki thought he saw something moving out of the corner of his eye. He glanced sideways at it, but no one was there. Hideki put a hand to the stitches under his hair and wondered if he was seeing the ghost of Ray or if his head wound was playing tricks on him. Either way, it was a stark reminder of what happened when you threw grenades at people. He would just have to find a different way to distract the soldiers. Hideki returned to the hill above the machine gun nest and took a deep breath. He had to make this work, for Kimiko and Masako and the little kids. "You okay?" Hideki said, loud enough for the soldiers to hear. "What?" someone called from the bunker. "Who said that? Who's there?" "You okay?" Hideki said again. "You don't sound like a ghost," the soldier called back. He still couldn't see who he was talking to, and Hideki couldn't hear the rising panic in the soldier's voice. "You okay is the new password," Hideki said. "I'm from headquarters. You're supposed to give me the response." "Response? We don't know the response," the soldier called back. "Nobody tells us anything out here." All right, Hideki said. "I can tell you're Japanese. I'm coming down." Hideki scrambled down the muddy slope and climbed inside the tiny machine gun nest. There were only 2 soldiers there, both Japanese army privates. Their clothes were muddy and oversized, like the men had shrunk in the rain, and each had scraggly beards that showed just how long they'd been alone. The bunker reeked of sweat and urine, and there was 3 inches of water on the floor. Between them stood Type 92 heavy machine gun. How long had Hideki been gone? Was it already 5 minutes? He had to hurry. Kimiko and Masako and the kids might already be moving by now. Private Hideki Kaneshiro, Blood and Iron Student Corps, Hideki said, saluting them. Lieutenant Colonel Sano sent me. It wasn't exactly a lie. Through the window of the bunker, Hideki caught a flash of movement. It wasn't Ray's ghost this time. It was Kimiko, Masako, and the kids. They were out in the open, where the machine gunners could see them if they looked. Hideki slid around to the back side of the cave, so the soldiers had to turn away from them to see him. What's the message? One of the soldiers asked. Yes, the message, Hideki said. He hadn't thought that far ahead yet. Ideas swarmed in his mind like flies, but none of them landed. Behind the soldiers, one of the children slipped in the mud and fell. Kimiko stopped to help him up. The Yamato, Hideki said. The big battleship is coming to save us. What? We heard it was sunk, one of the soldiers said. No, that was just a rumor started by the High Command to fool the Americans. The Yamato is still floating and will soon chase the American armada away so more reinforcements can land. Might have been a tall tale, but it was one the two soldiers desperately wanted to believe. They laughed and clapped each other on the soldiers. As life came back into their faces, Deke saw how young they were under the beards, barely older than he was. Behind the soldiers, Kimiko and the others were still visible, climbing a long, low hill. Where are you from? Deke asked, trying to stall for time. Hiroshima, one of the boys said. I was going to university to study chemistry, but then I was drafted into the army. I'm from Milwaukee, the other boy said. My father and I were fishermen before the Navy confiscated our boat. Then he and I were both drafted. He's in Korea now. The two soldiers were quiet for a moment, remembering the people they used to be. Their lives got interrupted by the war, just like mine, Hideki realized. It's easy to think of the soldiers as the ones doing the interrupting, as the people who had come to disrupt the peace of Okinawa. But neither of these boys had volunteered for this. They both had things they'd been doing, families they longed to see again, plans for the future. All that had been taken away from them, too. Do you have any food in that pack, Private? One of the soldiers asked. Becky's heart fluttered at the offer of a perfect new distraction, till he remembered he and the others had already eaten everything he had. I'm sorry, I don't have food, he told them, but I do have cigarettes. The look on the soldiers' faces told Hideki he was their new best friend. He took his time emptying his pack to look for the cigarettes and stole a quick glance outside. Kimiko helped the last of the children over the hill, and they disappeared into the darkness. Hideki smiled with relief and relaxed. He didn't have to keep the soldiers' attention any longer, and his thoughts turned to how quickly now he could get away and rejoin Kimiko. What's this? One of the soldiers asked. Hideki had taken the oilskin pouch of photographs out to find the cigarettes. One of the soldiers had picked it up and was looking inside. Oh, that's pictures, Hideki said. Those soldiers clearly could see that's what they were. Pictures of dead soldiers and their families, he thought, but he couldn't say that. Soldiers lit cigarettes and flipped through the pictures, studying the faces and places. With each image of their long lost home, the mood in the bunker became more and more melancholy. Why do you have all these? One of the soldiers asked. Hideki couldn't explain my boy. Couldn't explain Ray. Not here, not now. He said instead, the American ones were in a pack I took from a soldier after he was dead, after I killed him. The others, soldiers gave to me for safekeeping. Soldiers might have understood that the men who gave Hideki the photos were all dead now. They accepted the little white lie. The two young men smoked their cigarettes and thought of home, and Hideki sat awkwardly, inching to get his pictures back and leave. I should get back to headquarters, Hideki said at last. The soldiers nodded and handed him back the pictures. Hey, can I give you a picture too? One of them said. He pulled a wrinkled, water-stained photo from his jacket pocket. He hesitated, reluctant to let it go. Then he handed it to Hideki. It's me and my mother, back in Iwaki, he said, for safekeeping like the others. You know, in case the Yamato doesn't come in time for save us. Me too, the other soldier said. He gave Hideki a picture of him and his sweetheart, a pretty young woman who lived in Hiroshima. They knew, Hideki realized. They knew the Yamato was a lie. If not his lie, then somebody else's. That the dream of victory was just that, a dream. The reality was they were all going to die here on Okinawa, and soon. And Hideki and his sister and the children were going to die with them if they couldn't get past the American army next. Last chapter. Lion dogs. Hideki hadn't walked too far when he found Kimiko, Masako, and the children all hiding behind an exploded Japanese truck. To their left, Hideki could hear the roar of the sea. To the right, a steep rock cliff rose like teeth from the ground. Sorry you had to wait for me, Hideki said. We didn't have a choice, Masako said. She nodded for Hideki to follow her, and together the two of them crawled through the mud to a bend in the road. Just beyond them was an American camp. Someone, either the Americans or the Japanese before them, cut down trees so that they fell across the road, and soldiers guarding the camp stood behind the log barricade facing south. Behind them, Hideki could see other soldiers at a fire they sheltered from the rain. Hideki made a frame with his fingers. There were at least 10 American soldiers, including 2 guards so close Hideki could hit them with a rock or a grenade. The American camp couldn't have been more than a few dozen meters from the Japanese machine gun nest Hideki had just left. It was almost dawn, and as soon as the sun rose, those American soldiers would advance south and run right into the young Japanese soldiers. They would fight, and the Americans would win. They would always win, eventually. But in the meantime, Hideki and the others would be caught in the crossfire. They had to get past the Americans before that happened. Hideki nodded for Masako to turn around, and together they returned to where Kimiko and the children waited. Well? Kimiko asked. The Americans are taking up the whole road, Hideki explained. There's no way to sneak by without them seeing us. What if we went out in the water and swam around? Hideki shook his head. If they see us in the water, they'll think we're a Japanese attack force and start shooting at us. Do you still have the grenade? Masako asked. Yes, but I can't kill them all with one grenade. That's too many. We don't have to kill them all, Masako said. Just a few of them. Throw it from the ocean side to make them think the Japanese army is attacking from the beach. While they're shooting at shadows, we run behind them along the road. Then we're safe. Hideki pulled the grenade out of his pocket, weighing it in his hand as he walked off by himself. Masako's plan was dangerous, but it could work. Seeing the Americans when they were angry, they were like Shisa, lion dogs. They got something in their teeth, they shook it until it was dead. They would destroy the beach with machine guns and mortars and grenades, and then go down with their rifles and bayonets to make sure there wasn't anyone left. That's when Hideki and the others could slip on by. Kimiko joined Hideki, leaving Masako with the children. What are you thinking, Hideki? His sister asked him quietly. Hideki tried to put into words the way he hadn't been able to when Masako wanted him to use the grenade on the mother of all bombs. The way he'd felt when he decided not to use his grenade on the Japanese soldiers in the machine gun nest. I'm thinking that this isn't our fight, Hideki told her. Not between Okinawa and America or Okinawa and Japan. It's between America and Japan. Why can't we just let them duke it out? Because Okinawa's caught in the middle, just like we are, Kimiko said. All this time, people kept telling me, this is your island, you should be defending it, Hideki said. But I wasn't defending it. I was fighting for somebody else's side while they both destroyed my home. I'm tired of it. I want to be on Okinawa's side for once. So use the grenade on the Americans to save some Okinawans, Kimiko told him. Kimiko had a point. If you used the grenade here now, he could lead them all to safety. Sako, the children, Kimiko. That's what he'd really promised his father after all, wasn't it? Not just to find his sister, but to keep what was left of his family together. To live. Sometimes you had to fight to live. Maybe he needed to fight to save Okinawa, too. The thought of fighting made Hideki remember all the awful things he'd seen each side do to each other. The awful things both sides had done to Okinawans in the name of war. No, Hideki said. No, if we attack them, we're their enemy. When they're not under attack, when they're not afraid, the Americans are human beings. They actually helped me, gave me medicine, sewed up my head. It's the same with the Japanese. The photographer, my principal, my teachers, they were nice to me before the Americans came. That machine gun nest back there didn't have 2 monsters in it, it had 2 human beings. If I threw this grenade at them, they would have turned into monsters, just like these Americans. They'll become monsters that breathe fire and bullets. They're not at war with Okinawa, at war with Japan. But if I throw this grenade at them, they'll be at war with Okinawa too. Okinawa is Japan, Kimiko said. Are we? He asked. Kimiko was quiet for a time, then said, We have to do something, Hideki. He stared at the grenade in his hand. If he didn't use his last grenade here now, when would he ever use it? And that's when he knew what he had to do. So we'll stop there. We'll finish it up tomorrow. So have a great rest of the day. Stay safe, and remember, range is the way.